guys? Welcome back to the Cuse Quarter. Now I'm alongside Tommy Farrell, Julian Wiggum, and Jonathan Singh. How about that win this past Friday night? Defeated number 2 Clemson. Fans were wild, environment like nothing I've seen before. What'd you guys see? How'd they do it? Yeah, how'd they do it?
First of all, what a game. What an environment. The Carrier Dome was rocking. What an experience, Big win for Dino Babers and the Orange. Big win for Syracuse University. And guys, big win for the community itself.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say I agree. That's a huge one. I think this is a program-changing win. I think it's something that's going to, affect them down the road going forward in recruiting. I think it's just the perception of the program. I think it's changed a little bit. And then I think inside the locker room, I think they can win. Those guys believe they can win every game on the schedule going forward.
And yeah, we're talking about the Orange, how electric the Carrier Dome was, how awesome it was for the community. I agree with all of you guys on that. How about Clemson? I mean, I respect Coach Sweeney a lot. I respect Dabo Sweeney tenfold. He came into the locker room after, not only congratulating Coach after the game, but he came into Syracuse's locker room and talked to them. And I believe the last time that happened was in the 90s when Joe Paterno lost to someone. I saw something like that. But that's going to affect Clemson because with this whole new college football playoff system and only 4 teams get in, you never know. That could make or break Clemson's season.
They still have a chance. And what some class from Dabo Sweeney right there, to go in there and do that. It's much respect to him for that.
And Clemson, they're on a bye week this week. Yeah. So, the loss is in, it's the taste is still in their mouth. So they're not playing this Saturday. So it'll be a long week and a half.
You mentioned that with that bye week. I think this is a loss that can beat you twice. Especially going into a Georgia Tech game where the preparation is going to have to be laser focused and ready to go. And they're coming off a loss, what they expect to win, and how they lost that game. Yeah. That's something that, like I said, it can beat you twice, and you have to come in ready to go. So it's going to be a real big tough for Clemson going forward.
And as a player, how big of a deal is special teams, right? Clemson missing 2 field goals, not even blocked. Both of them were shanked. So, and they lost by a field goal. Those 2 field goals could have been a game changer. Mm-hmm. And how about also Syracuse losing the turnover battle, losing the penalty battle, and they were not behind the entire game.
I think Clemson had a lot of pass interferences too. That kind of.
I think that the way that they managed to win this game, despite losing the turnover, like you said, and having the penalties that they did, it just shows what kind of total game that Syracuse can play, despite the negatives. They beat Clemson. This wasn't something where Clemson just lost the game and they didn't do what they needed to do. I mean, obviously the field goals, but this is a situation where Syracuse had their own miscues and still managed to lead the entire football game and truly put together 4 quarters and really truly beat this football team.
It was a complete game on both sides of the ball, and something huge for the Orange was going into the locker room up with the lead, momentum in their favor. That was huge.
Well, that's where you know that, and you've been in the locker room at halftime in big games, Julian. That's a huge momentum shifter. They're in the locker room at halftime. We can beat this team. And not only were they playing amazing football, the dome was electric.
Yes.
And the fans had a lot to do with that, I feel like, personally.
I have to give credit to Dungy for that, too, because a lot of third downs conversions. He got the first down when it counted, so he had an excellent game against Clemson.
278 yards.
Mm-hmm. Dungy, 20 for 32, 278 yards, 3 touchdowns, but was sacked 6 times. We said it last show, defensive line of Clemson, fast, strong, quick, elusive.
Real quick, I have to give credit to John real quick because he predicted the score to be 28-24, and it was 27-24. Wow. So, yes, let's see if you can do it again. See if you can do it twice. Yes.
Okay, okay, guys. I'm going 28-24 Syracuse over Clemson.
I'm
calling it because
alert emojis.
Yes.
Because if they win, I'm going to be the guy at campus.
20% of the nation calling
he
that
thought they were going to win.
Probably less than that.
He did. Let's talk about Miami and Georgia Tech here for a sec. Also a super close game, 25-24, won there at the end. What did you see from that game?
I think Miami they came in, they were the same old Miami. It's 2 straight weeks in a row now where they've struggled to pull. They've had to fight against Florida State and then Georgia Tech, and just try to find a way to win the game. And I think that's a credit to their quarterback for finding a way to go down the field and score the football when they need it. But it's also worrisome for Miami because they're struggling as opponents that they should be taken care of pretty handily. Both Florida State and Georgia Tech are not opponents that were supposed to give Miami that much trouble this year. I don't think that was predicted or expected. Yet they still managed to pull those games out. So I think we're witnessing a very special situation here where Syracuse is coming off of a huge win, thinking they can beat anybody. And then we have a Miami football team who is undefeated, yet still has shown that they've struggled to get out of games.
Right.
So it's going to be an interesting matchup, certainly going forward.
And they still have a game to make up. They played 5 games. They had a game canceled against Arkansas.
Arkansas State.
Arkansas State. So they still have a game to be played. But it should be interesting, see how Syracuse can stop Travis Homer.
Well, definitely Homer is going to be big because their running back's out. He has 382 yards on the season, but 170 of those yards were last week against Georgia Tech. Granted, it was a horrible weather game. They were running the rock a lot. So was Georgia Tech because that's the tempo offense they run. But Miami was down 24-22 with 36 seconds left on 4th and 10. And what happens? Darrell Langham, 5 catches for 100 yards, probably the biggest catch of his career. Over 2 defenders, through 2 defenders, gets deflected, he's falling down, catches it on the way down, and that sets up a game-winning field goal for Miami.
You just mentioned the weather. Do you guys, well, Julian, you played down there. You're from Florida. Do you think the weather is going to be a factor in this game? The heat. It could be rainy. We play inside, obviously. Do you think the weather is going to be a factor?
I think if it's raining, it certainly will because I've seen this Syracuse football team struggle in the rain last season against Wake Forest. They played in a poor weather football game and managed to lose that game. But if it's sunny and it's hot and humid, I think that this team will be ready to go only because of the tempo that they play week in and week out. They go against on defensively, they go against an offense that snaps the ball every 13 seconds, and in practice is even faster than that. So they'll have their wind, but if it's raining or if there's any type of precipitation going on down in South Florida, it might be difficult for them to throw the football.
Especially a team that's used to playing in a dome most of the time, and it snows or rains, so they're probably not used to that environment. But I'm going to ask you this, Julian. You said one of the biggest games you played and upset a team was Louisville. They were number 9 at the time.
Yep.
And so when you're coming off a win like that, how do you stop from getting too high in those moments and just maintain a certain momentum going into the next game?
It's a matter of culture in the locker room. And that's why I think Coach Babers is one of the best head coaches in college football right now, is because he's created a culture where his players have bought in and they understand that this entire season is a process. And that process is game in, game out, doing what you need to do to help your team win a football game. And I think that this football team understands, just from talking to guys, just around campus and everything, and these young guys too, sophomores and juniors, they understand. I don't want to talk about Clemson anymore. I don't want to deal with that. We're worried about Miami. We're trying to prove that we can, we're trying to prove that we can win on the road against another top 10 team. We're trying to still establish ourselves as a real legitimate program. And that's excellent to hear from young guys like that because they understand. They bought in. Yep, they bought in. So if you bought into a program like that, I think that this football team understands that we still have work to do. And I think it's just a tribute to Coach Babers and the culture that he's created in that locker room, something that's been missing from Syracuse football program for a long time.
And it's a homecoming for a lot of the players. Not most of them are from Miami, but near the area. So they're going to have their friends and their families there. So it's great for them. It really is.
It is. And just a quick point. I remember just going down. Whenever I got to go back down to Florida, it was always fun because my mom would come to the game. Family would come down. So I think it's going to be a lot of, especially Steve Ishmael, one of the top receivers in the country right now, having his family down. I think another big game for him. When you get to go down there and you have a lot of Florida players like Syracuse does, it's always fun to go back and compete.
Syracuse hasn't beat a ranked opponent back-to-back times since 1983. So they're going to have a tough task ahead of them. They're playing at Hard Rock Stadium. They're in Miami.
Yep.
So it's going to be a tough one, but I don't know. We'll get to predictions later because I think this is going to be one heck of a game.
And you brought up Ishmael just a second ago, and Coach Baber was talking earlier. He was saying that the leading receiver right now may be Ishmael, but that position is he's seeing a lot of good stuff from them. So who right now would you say is the top receiver? Is it Ishmael out of him, Pierce, and Franklin?
I gotta go with Steve just because he's the guy. He's the number 1 receiver, and it's not even. It's true. I don't think it's close. Herb. I love Herb. I called him swaggiest receiver in college football like 2 weeks ago. He's an excellent athlete. I think he's gonna have an opportunity in the NFL just because I think he has return ability that we haven't gotten to see. But I love his feet. I love his routes. I think he's an excellent receiver. He finds a way to get open in space like we saw against Clemson last week. But Steve Ishmael, man. the way that he's managed to put it together this season is really beautiful to see. And his progression since his freshman year all the way up until now, I think is some of the most growth that we've seen in 4 years around Syracuse in a long time. So
I think they both help each other out, though. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Oh, no,
two
absolutely.
skilled
Yeah.
receivers. Last week, Phillips 4 catches, 94 yards. Ish last week, 6 catches, over 70 yards. They both help each other out on the opposite sides of the field, and they're a distraction to most defenses.
Absolutely.
And I think that takes the pressure off Dundee, knowing that he has 2 excellent receivers to throw to. But let's talk about Miami's defense for a second here. They have 17 sacks in 5 different games. How does that throw off Syracuse's offensive line and their offense altogether?
I think this will be a different task. You know, first I want to praise Syracuse's offensive line.
I was just gonna say that.
I want to praise them, man. Even though they gave up 6 sacks, there was Clemson's defense.
Yep.
One, Clemson doesn't even blitz, right? It's just that defensive
They're
line.
fine.
They're just spectacular. So the way they managed to improve, I feel like over the past 7 weeks or so, it's just been beautiful to watch. I think the chemistry is finally there.
Yeah.
I think they've really figured out a way to bond together and actually make the blocks they need to be able to throw the ball efficiently and run the ball effectively. But going into this week, Miami does blitz. They're not relying on just that defensive line, right? So they want to get after that quarterback, and it's going to be up to, I want to see how much they've grown since Middle Tennessee State. How well can you pick up the blitz? How well can you trust the man next to you? So that's going to be a huge part of the game this week, because if they can't pick up that blitz, it's going to be a tough time for them. But, you know, just from what I've seen against Clemson, man, and one of the best in the country, I'm optimistic.
They look a lot more comfortable together as a unit.
Yeah, of course. And what about Miami as a defense completely changed going against different offenses? Last week, they played Georgia Tech in the rain, who runs the triple option, runs the ball over 50-60% of the time. And now they're playing a fast, up-tempo, Dino Babers, I'm going to throw the ball offense.
Yeah.
So, Julian, talk about as a defensive player, does practice help? Or I know we said earlier that you probably feel better that you're playing a regular college offense that, runs spread.
Yeah, when I was a defensive back and we played Georgia Tech, I hated that whole week of practice. That was the worst week of practice I ever had. And then when we finally got a chance to play a normal team, I was excited because this team's going to actually throw the football.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Georgia Tech would try to motion everybody and they move around, give you a lot of eye candy. I hated that football. And then play this slow receiver on the outside. He would tell you, bro, it's a run. And then it's just like, dog. So when you're going to get an opportunity going from Georgia Tech to a team that likes to throw the football, I think you get a little more.
If you're a highly recruited wide receiver coming out of high school, do you really want to go to Georgia Tech?
No, the dude that was covering seemed
Navy or
sad.
Army or
The
Air
guy that
Force
was covering
Wilson.
seemed sad that he was going to Georgia Tech. Like it just seemed like
Julian.
football was like the worst part of his day.
As a former D-back, do you think that Miami is going to be able to keep up with the speed of Syracuse?
I would actually rephrase that and say, can Syracuse keep up with the speed of Miami? Because the secondary, only because the secondary, I don't think they've been tested in a long time. I feel like Miami's offensive weapons on the outside, Ahmad Richards and your man Langham. I think they have a lot of talent on the outside right now. I think they have a lot of talent at the tight end position as well. They can spread the ball out. And Rozier, and he will be. He will be. And Rozier, I think he's been doing a great job swinging the football around. So, I mean, I think it's going to be up to the secondary this week, just trying to make sure that they can keep up with the speed on the outside, because Miami, they've proven themselves already. In this secondary for Syracuse, I don't think they've quite gotten to that level of expectancy yet.
Saying that, I have to ask. This may be comparing apples to oranges, but which one is more difficult? Beating the 2 top 10 teams in a row, Syracuse, or having a 6-game win streak when you just had 2 really tight games?
I think it's tougher for Syracuse. Just like you see the
schedule.
schedule.
They have, it just gets worse and worse.
We have a bye week, and then we go down to Florida State, Wake Forest, yada yada yada. I think it's tougher for Syracuse. I'll tell you right now, they probably had a great week of practice. I mean, I hope. A ton of momentum going down there. Miami might be a little scared. I don't know.
All right, let's go to predictions now. Who is calling the upset? What do we got here?
I'll start.
You go first.
We're
We're going to save him for later.
So I got Miami winning 30-20. Now Syracuse are 17-point dogs. So Syracuse will cover, but I think Miami's gonna beat them. I think Syracuse is gonna win a lot of the game, but for some reason I think Miami's gonna click, because this is almost the same Miami team as last year, but this year the ball is bouncing in Miami's favor. Where last year Miami would lose those close games. They would lose those close games to Georgia Tech and Florida State. So this year, I think the ball's bouncing in their favor, and they're going to come out on top, beating Syracuse 30-20.
Julian?
I think Syracuse might still be a little too high after the last win, and I'm thinking that Miami pulls this one out in a close one, 21-24. My reasoning for that is Syracuse hasn't proven themselves on the road yet, and I need to see a little bit more from the secondary and on the offensive line to prove that they can protect against pressure, and from the secondary to prove that they can actually cover guys with speed. So I think it's going to be close, but Miami's proven themselves as a team that knows how to win late in games, and I think they pull this one out as well.
I'm going 32-28 Syracuse. I like the way Syracuse plays against tough teams. You know, they lost to NC State by 8. You know, they came out ugly. That was an ugly first half against that game. Same down in Death Valley in LSU. Yep. Syracuse almost pulled that one off, and it almost doesn't count. But, you know, coming off a win last Friday night at home, yep. I mean, if Syracuse can come out with that momentum, and I think a key to this game is a strong first half. Going to the locker room, feeling confident with the lead.
Having the lead at halftime, like against Clemson.
Yeah, having the lead at halftime is obviously huge. But I think Syracuse will pull this one out. It's going to be a close one, though. It's going to be tight.
And Julian will be down there, right?
I will be down there too, covering the game.
Down.
Both of us are going to be covering the game. But saying that, I call Syracuse on top this game. I think they're going to pull the upset. 27-21, 3 touchdowns, and a field goal. And I think they're going to pull it off. But
Drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yes, I know. Yeah, so we will have a bye week next week, so we won't actually be on the show, but be ready the next week to watch more of the Cuse Quarter. Thanks for watching, guys.